Good evening and welcome to this week's Loose Links as we share topics, hot debates and even have a little bit of chat. All that on tonight's show. Keeping you alive and making sure that your topic is heard is Rachel Penny. The glitz and glamour and the person that knows technology inside out, that's Claire Brown in May. And our final person, he's back. It's been a long time since he's on our screens, but please welcome back Mike Curtis. And keeping them all in line, isn't he? Nicholas James. Good evening and welcome to this week's Loose Links. Brand new show, brand new topic. Ladies, it's good to see you, and Mike, it's good to have you back. It's nice to have you on our screens. Let's hope this week. But let's talk about, in our topic, somebody from overseas, a local celebrity, is talking about paying UK tax. But so we have a discussion about actually, should celebrities and politicians, when they are paid highly in our country, be first given when it comes to volunteering or donating money? We have a bit of a chat about that. Also, we talk about that famous slap. Yes, the Will Smith slap live on stage. Do we actually think that's the best way to achieve it? And we finish on the subject of kittens. And are we animal fans? And do you believe there should be a stricter way to owning your own pet? All that on tonight's show. Good evening! That took some time, didn't it? Claire Brown in May. 10 out of 10 for technology. Rachel, you look like there's a bit of a shelf in front of you or something. You've got like a little bit of a brown thing right in front of you. You look like you've got a little shelf in front of you.
Look, some paper out there, look. Well, you've got my face.
And Mike, it's good to have you back. Rachel, not everything's about you, love. Can I just talk to the other passionate as well? Right, it's good to have you back. It's been a while since we've seen you.
Yeah, thank you for having me back. Let's hope it records, eh?
Are you excited for a recording?
Let's give it a go. See what you think. I'll probably be barred off air again in about 25 minutes for another 6 months. I'll say something wrong.
Let's see what happens. But let's start with the most important thing, really. Your say on last week's show. We have our poll results. So last week's show was, in difficult times such as, I can't see it all. Oh, that's a bit difficult. Hold on. Let me see if I can just go back to Facebook because it's a screenshot and I can't see the whole thing. Hold on 1 second. Go back. There we go. I can see it now. In difficult times such as we are in now, children will be going to school and talking about what has been discussed over the dinner table the previous evening. How schools got what's the responsibility to ease the pressure and worry, but still acknowledge the truth, giving the truth without the fear. So 48% of you said yes. 48% of you said no, and then there was a percentage. Can we overprotect nowadays? And 14% of you said yes to that as well. We had an interesting discussion about a celebrity the other week. So sex in relationships takes a big part of a couple's life, but shouldn't this be kept private and behind closed doors? You won't believe this, but 43% of you said no, it shouldn't be kept private and it shouldn't be kept behind doors, and 57% of you said yes. And the final poll was, as the family age, do you feel pressure into looking after the elderly members in their final years? 72% of you said yes, and 28% of you said no. Please always get in touch with us. It's really important that you have your say. We're not just 4 people sat here. We need a 5th. We need a view of you at home as well. So please join in our debates, our discussions, disagree with any of us. It's your show as well as ours. So let's get on to the first topic. So the first topic is, there's a councillor, I'm not going to name her actually, there's a councillor's wife has said that she will pay UK taxes on her overseas income following a row with her status, really, with how she stands. She owes £7 million in shares in an Indian IT giant factory, funded by her father, which she receives 11.6 million in the divide income of last year. So this got me thinking really about, again, I don't want to go too much into the story, but this gets me thinking about when we've got people on TV asking for money and for help and stuff like that. Rachel, do you believe the rich societies that if you are in, do you think they should go publicly about giving money to encourage the public? Do you think it should be them stepping forward first before the average Joe that works in an office 9 to 5 weekly?
Well, things are very hard for everybody in this current climate, but you don't know exactly what these celebrities or the rich actually do. And, you know, they'd be slated if they were banding about what actual amounts they have been giving to charities. But when these celebrities come on TV and they're asking for it, the first thing you think of, well, you know, you dip your hand in your pocket, you've got more money than I've got. But you don't know that. I just think 9 times out of 10 they do anyway. But apart from the really the rich and famous, like footballers, and you see them squandering all this money in you know, nightclubs, and they used to before lockdown. That does look sickening when you think of everything else that's going on in the world with the poverty and the children. But you can't be responsible for everything. And I do think if somebody has money on their own merits, then why not? That, you know, you do good with it, and you don't know that they don't do good with it, quite honestly. But, you know, if I was wealthy, which I'm not, if I was wealthy, I don't begrudge anybody. If they've worked hard for their money, then that it's their money.
But it's that question, isn't it, though, Rachel? It's that question, the working hard for your money. And I'm not saying at all that let's go down the football route. So if we look at sport, and I get that it's early training and it's this, that, and the other, but don't you think it's just ridiculous amounts of money that they are paid to kick potentially a ball of air around for 90 minutes? Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm getting on to. Really.
Yeah. Well, we're going on to a different thing, aren't we, really, about whether they're worth it. It depends what revenue they bring in, what money they bring into that club, and that they obviously do, otherwise they wouldn't be paid so much. They wouldn't be worth as much. But it's morally how they spend it. It looks a bit sickening when you see then on the next breath news at 10 after a football match has been on, the poverty and the suffering in the rest of the world. But you cannot put that responsibility on somebody's shoulders. But they might do good with their money anyway. So you know, it's a difficult subject, because nobody's going to turn down money if they're worth it, are they?
Do you think though, Mike? Let's go to you. Do you think, like, when we look at UK tax government and stuff like that, there's a percentage of it that goes to social care. There's a percentage of it that goes here, now, and everywhere. Now, in my head, and I don't know if you would agree or not, but in my head, if you are, maybe there needs to be a bracket of wages. That's what I think I'm talking about. And if there's a bracket of wages, what about having in their contracts, okay, you're going to earn this, but 10% of that every 6 months has to go to a local charity, or 10% of that has to go to something that's in need. And there's like a contracted limit thing. We're not saying take all their bloody money away from them and we'll spend it. But actually, if you are living the bloody dream and everybody's in society is suffering, do you think there should be something within a contract if you score over a certain bracket?
No. In a nutshell. Because I think what we're moving into there is a difference between a dictatorship and a democracy, and we're starting to look at communism. And I'm not going to go down a route of sort of politics in that sense. I'm sort of treading very carefully, probably resulting in me being barred again after today. But what I am trying to sort of highlight is already we have tax brackets, don't we, that look at that for sort of our social welfare. So we all pay a percentage towards, as you've said, the society that we live in, so our NHS and other factors, which is absolutely really important. I believe in that, and then that's differentiated up, isn't it? I don't know the exact percentages, but is it over something like £50,000 now? You pay a higher tax bracket, which in turn will mean that your council tax, well, not your council tax, but your earnings will be spread more in terms of the percentage that they take, not significantly. And I just think it's really difficult, isn't it? I think the idea behind charity is it's a voluntary offer. And actually to sort of say that everybody has to pay into that is a different factor. I think I'd like to say we live in a really good world that is what happens and people are well-rounded and we all want to do that. But then equally as well, if I'm honest with you, there's lots of charities that I'd like to support, and then there are charities that I wouldn't, because I wouldn't agree with the way that they deal with things in terms of their funding. So I think to have that money forced and taken from you starts to make the world we live in a little bit skewered. And that sits uncomfortably with me, if that makes sense.
Do you think, though, Claire, that we are basically living in a world of greed?
I don't know about greed. I just think those who's got the money keep the money. Personally, I mean, I've never had a lot of money. What money I've got, I've worked for. But, I mean, like, go back to the footballers. What about, like, 300,000 is it per week some of them get? Why not the club not give them that much, say, right, you're having that, but they were going to give them 300, and that bit goes in a pot, and then the club distributes it to different charities. Do you know what I mean? It just seems absolutely, when we say there's all this suffering in the world, and people, going from COVID to now go into bills that, can we afford food on the table, heating? And it's just ridiculous, to find out that, footballers, politicians are earning X amount of money when, the average Joe Bloggs, gets up at whatever time to do their job, has mouths to feed. I don't know. It just doesn't seem.
What I'm saying is, how is that fair? Do you get what I'm saying?
No, it's not, is it? I don't think Claire's saying it's fair.
I'm not. No. Go on, Mike. Go, carry on.
But I think what we're trying to sort of get across here is that there's certain things. I think it comes down to your political status as well, in the sense of, certain governments will focus more heavily on this, and obviously, we're skating around the houses here, aren't we? We all know who we're referring to and whose wife has made some decisions to invest in an alternate country via her taxes, and there's a question of there actually, I mean, when we heard his speech yesterday on the radio, I think what really, really stunned me was that, he was more concerned that it had been found out rather than what she'd done. And actually, the bottom line is that's not right, is it? That is not morally right, because actually anybody else in our country would be penalised for that, and she should be no different.
See, I just find it. I find if I think about like, because as you know, we've been in a global pandemic, so I felt like a lot of the charity adverts came off the TV for quite a long while, because actually we're all in a difficult place. But I do, and I don't know the inside out, but it just I do sit there and watch TV sometimes and think, what a bloody hypocrite! You're sat there screaming out to people that please donate, please help us, please. There are serious people out there, but I can almost guarantee that celebrity is paid to sit in front of that camera to say what they are saying about that charity. And I just think that how do we find that fine line? How do we find that balance? How do we, like, it's ridiculous what some people earn, and I'm talking about politicians and footballers and celebrities and stuff like that. And like even loose women are inspiration. Have sat on a show before and gone, well, this isn't a proper job, is it? It's not a proper job. I get paid for quite a lot for not doing a proper job. And there are people in the NHS at the moment that are doing 48, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week and getting pittance. And I just think, when's that going to change? When are we going to look? Because it almost feels like Downton Abbey, upstairs, downstairs. It almost feels like that. And I just think, where are we ever, and are we ever going to find that balance?
Well, the thing is, there's this person you're talking about. We have these events that happen, like they used to have the telethon and Pudsey Bear and all these people, suffering in this country. Yes, the amount that is raised on that night is a drop in the ocean to this person.
Yeah,
the drop in the ocean. Could wipe it off. We could wipe it off with click of a button on a computer, and that's what the overwhelming wealth of some people. If it was me, well, I wouldn't be wealthy for long. I'd try and sort everything out. But I can see what you're talking about. But why should somebody's hard-earned? It goes. There's different brackets, isn't there? There's the really filthy rich, like we're talking, or there's people who've worked hard and they have employed people on a quite a large basis, but they've worked hard for their money. As Mike was saying, you can get into this situation where you're bringing everybody down to a certain level, squashing them all in, and then it's then communism, and you can't do that because we're a free society. We've got, but morally, it seems wrong to me.
I mean, we look at certain charities, and I mean, I'm not going to name any specific one, but I'm sure you'll know what I'm referring to. A really popular children's society, which had travelled the world helping children, and actually we've now identified they were sexually exploited. There was cohorts of volunteering staff sexually exploiting them children and putting the charitable organisation's reputation at risk. And I just feel that, if we're going to invest in charities, we need assurance, we need quality assurance that them charities are using them fundings appropriately to support the need. And that for me, I'm getting a bit political here. Until look at me doing the pointing thing. It's very Borisy, that, isn't it? But we haven't got that. We don't have that assurance because people are trusting and they put the money in, so yeah.
But it's not just, and let me pull away as well from, and this is going down a different road, I know, so get prepared for it. And anybody out there that is one, feel free to argue back with me, that's absolutely fine. But when you look at the world of social media now, I follow a couple of people on a platform that is videos. That's all I'll say. I can't name the platform, but a platform that are videos that have left full-time jobs, full-time everyday jobs, to become a video maker on social media, and they're getting paid for that. And I just think, to me, there is no working your way from the bottom up anymore, because money's quite easy to get hold of. Money, actually, when you I've talked to young people, and when you talk to young people and they go, actually, I'm not interested in a 9-to-5 job. I'd rather be taking pictures. OnlyFans, there's even OnlyFans in that. Taking pictures of myself every day, loading them up, getting paid for doing it. And I just think, where are we going to be in 10 years' time? If we're thinking like that already, about how easy it is to make a job, and how you don't even have to leave your front door. You can get up anytime you want in the morning and get started on it and carry on late into the evening. There's nothing there anymore, is there? There's no morals about working your way up the ladder.
I mean, Nick, OnlyFans. I mean, the thing is, we have to remember about that, I know that
you want it, Mike? Is that why you're telling us?
Well, I thought I'd best just get myself out there now, hadn't I? And just let you all know that there's a 10% discount currently taking place. But well, I would say 15% because I'm desperate, if I'm honest, at the moment. But actually, on a different note, we do have to sort of consider what is the bigger message behind OnlyFans, isn't there? And there is sort of I don't know, for me, I find it interesting in the sense of, I know people that have been on it and worked on it. And actually, I guess for me, is there a question? I think the bigger worry for me isn't about the fact that they can find that easy, or I don't want to use the word easy because I don't know if they did find it easy, but they that was a means of funding their lifestyle, yeah? To actually display themselves having all these sexual acts, blah, 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 blah. My point is, what does that say about people's self-esteem? And I think that, and their self-worth and their self-value and their dignity, if ever employers were, I think, Claire, you made previous reference, you work in education, if anybody was ever to do that as a student that thought, oh, it's a quick win, I'm living for life, and in my early 20s, and never they were to be identified then in a professional role, it would be detrimental. And we've seen that, haven't we? You've probably seen the nurse that speaks about that he left the NHS because actually it was easier to go on OnlyFans. He put himself all over the papers discussing that. And it's just such I mean, we're on about OnlyFans here, aren't we now? And that's not the point of tonight. But I just think it's a balance, isn't it? And I think it's about what is our society. What does that say about our society at the moment? A society that is overcoming the biggest pandemic that we've seen in over 100 years. We're currently merging into almost like a World War III situation. And all of them impacts, the restrictions that we're feeling on our country with gas and electric and oil. I mean, some of the things we're dealing with gas and bills that you were talking about, Claire, we haven't dealt with, have we, since the 50s and 60s when they were turning gas and electric off, or maybe just electric. Obviously, I weren't born then, but what I'm saying is I don't know if anyone out there might beg to differ. I don't want to quote an exact date, but where are we going? Nothing's changed, is it? If we're reliving this 50, 60 years on, nothing's changed. So it's about, actually, a bigger topic should be about, on this show, how do we make humanity change? But I'll stop there and I'll go off my soapbox.
but the thing is, if you think about it as well with schools, imagine like, I remember being in schools and options, and when you were thinking about what do you want to be in later life and stuff like that, and it was discussed, to be a teacher you need to do this, to be a truck driver, if you want to go down the line of acting, do you want to do this? It scares me that options will turn into, well, do you want to be an Instagram influencer, and do you want to be on the world of social media, and is that how your career, but I can't just have a go at the influencers as well, because if you think about it, when we think about our everyday jobs now, technology is taking over as well. So we can't just blame people and just go, well, it's people's fault, we're going down that route, why are they choosing that route? Like, supermarkets are getting fantastic that we've got this self-checkout thing now that's been there for years and years and years, but is that potentially getting rid of somebody that could potentially have a full-time job that's bringing money in? Does technology scare you, Rachel?
Oh, funny. That is very funny. Every time I get my phone out, you say, oh my goodness, I've lost the will. It doesn't scare me, no. I try my best to work it out. I'm not that much of a fossil, but I'm, I was trying to sort out something tonight before I came on, and yeah, it went wrong as usual. But I'll work it out. It doesn't scare me, no. But the thing is, you're not going to stop it, are you? You're not going to stop them, people trying to make a computer worth about 10 humans, are you? If it works in their favor and it makes more money for them, you're never going to stop technology like that.
But it must give the job centre a headache. Do you know what I mean? They're trying to get people into work, and what scares me is, well, eventually we'll all be on the dole because there'll be no jobs available, or very few jobs. I have got to tell you, with technology, it's hilarious with Rachel, because she can literally go, I've got something to show you on the phone, and she goes like this, right, okay, let me show you a picture. Now, who would have sent it? So and so sent it. Now, would they have sent it on WhatsApp? She's 15 minutes up now, clearly didn't send it on WhatsApp, and you're there 45 minutes later losing the will to live. Absolutely losing the will to live. Rachel, let's go back to you. Do you think, though, we are in a world that we still judge when it comes to where you are living and where you are on the wealth ladder?
I don't think so much now, really. I don't think there used to be slums, didn't there? But everybody's got a certain standard of living now, and I don't really think so. There's obviously there are the very, very wealthy, and there are the very, very poor, but I don't think the very, very poor now are where they used to be, because I don't think society allows people to get like that anymore, except obviously then we're getting onto the homeless. I think I don't see any slums like there used to be, that you used to hear of back in the 50s, and I don't know. I've not really thought about that as a.
Oh, see, we like to get you thinking. What did you agree, Claire?
Well, again, I just think, with coming out of a pandemic, which is not going to go away. We don't know. We could be in this for a long time, and then again, World War III. Who knows? Do you know what I mean? You don't know what's around the corner, so that's frightening in itself. And then to top it all off, we're having all the high prices, so people who are on pensions know exactly what they've got coming in and can they afford it. So, of course, they won't put the heating on, or they'll skip out on a meal. And that's when they become vulnerable. And, how as a community, as a nation, can we help this when there's always something going off somewhere in the world? And us, as a nation, we do help others.
But Mike, some people will say, well, actually, I'm paying my taxes, so why ain't this going somewhere?
Exactly. But that's it. Where is it going? We do, like I say, every time there is a crisis, England does send a load of money to these places, which is understandable. But then, when you look into our country, we have still got the homeless and the old and everything else. And I'm not saying we shouldn't help others out, but it's a fine line of, charity begins at home, and why can't we do what they do to other countries to give them, when we've got people that's dying, starving, and that in our own countries. I think it's our own crisis.
We have our own crisis. We have 270,000 homeless in this country, and that's a lot of people.
Yeah,
and getting hungry.
It's a scary thought. But tell us what you guys think out there. Do you think actually that we are doing our best for people on the wealth ladder? Do you think actually being at the top is very easy to get there in the year of 2022 now? And do you think there should be a bit of a limit on wages and giving a little bit away? have your say. Make sure you have your debate. There is many ways you can contact us. There's the Facebook page, group, Instagram, TikTok very soon. I keep saying very soon every week, but it will be very soon. TikTok very soon. looselinks@gmail.com. We have a website that's now up and running, www.looselinks.co.uk. Many ways, so make sure you have your say. Now, I think we're going on to Mike's favourite topic tonight now. Isn't this right, Mike? You were quite excited about talking about this topic. So let's see what he has to say. But we're naming and shaming a little bit. Will Smith has been banned from the Oscar galas and other Academy events for 10 years after the US actor slapped comic Chris Rock at the ceremony. In a statement, the Academy said the 94th Oscar has been overshadowed by the unacceptable and harmful behaviour we saw Mr. Smith establish on stage. Will Smith has apologised for his actions and resigned from the Academy. The actor hit Rock for joking about his wife's shaved head after a condition that she has. So, Claire, do you think it was right what he did?
No way. No, personally, no. You don't just think he's in the wrong. You know, you've got millions of people watching all over the world. And yeah, what Chris said, you know, is wrong. Again, it's like a form of bullying, isn't it? Out there in public for everybody to see and hear. But for him to take the matter into his own hands was wrong, you know, because like you say, lots of people were watching, young and old, more so for the younger generation, to think this is acceptable to just go up and slap someone because they didn't agree with what they said. So no, I think it wasn't right what he did. He should have tried to walk off or do something, but to literally approach the stage, then there's going to be a reaction, isn't there? And there's got to be consequences because it was just wrong.
Anybody else want to jump on that?
You know, I am interested in talking about this because I think there is something that sits completely outside of the lens of this debate, which is what currently Will Smith is going through in his life. I'm not his counsellor, Professor. I sound almost like I was going to do some sort of introductory to his mental health then, didn't I? But, you know, I have found it really interesting. There's been a lot of press recently, hasn't there, about his relationship with his wife and, you know, his changing character and how she outed in public television some time ago that she'd been openly having an affair. And I think there's been some recent documentation released around he's now saying that they're in an open relationship, and I feel he chases I feel he's quite a sad man, if I'm honest with you. When you look in his eyes, he looks so incredibly lost, you know, and you know, and maybe it's really difficult, isn't it? Because what I'm mindful of is everything we see through a camera lens. So we see him laughing, and then everybody's saying that obviously his wife's pulled some sort of face, there's been some sort of discussion, then he gets up and then he slaps him. And it's almost like his behavior contradicts his actions, you know, from laughing initially to that he didn't look shocked or offended. And then obviously there's all this kind of thing where he clearly adores the woman and loves her and is desperately seeking her approval. And I just think that the man is in a very dark place, and he was so incredibly emotional, wasn't he, afterwards when he stood up and he apologized. And I don't condone his behavior and I don't support it, but I think that this is a man that's really struggling with something. And I don't want to put a label on what that is, but there's something he's struggling with, whether that's to keep his wife, his own emotional well-being, his own professional well-being. There's something about him that has got lost. And I just think that that's really sad. And yeah, that's kind of my view on the matter.
Yeah, I think he had something else going on. You could tell in his face. Something just clicked, I think, that night. And nobody should make fun of somebody's disability or problem they have or disease or anything like that. And she had got alopecia. But I think he felt humiliated. He'd humiliated himself, I think, by hitting Chris Rock, and the way he swore afterwards, you know, and I think that was punishment enough.
I mean, it's
for
even down to, if you look at like the clip, it's just fascinating, isn't it? How he feels in that moment that his response, it just doesn't even tally. So this comedian makes this inappropriate, or person makes an inappropriate joke, which we all kind of get, and then like he just walks up onto the stage and slaps him. It's just not proportionate, is it? His response. He did, you know, he didn't lodge a complaint. You know, he didn't do. There's other ways he could have responded, and I do get like an act of heroism and an act of passion, and you know, him trying to stand by his wife. But it just seemed to me, even like the way he walked up to him, there was hesitation in his walking, and I just thought, this isn't. He's lost. He's not. He's being influenced by some reason. I think his marriage is very unhealthy. And you know, not that the fact in terms of an open relationship, in the sense of he's clearly chasing something that she's very clear he doesn't give her something that she needs.
He couldn't have just walked off though, could he? Really, it was right at the front. So if he'd have walked off, he'd have had to have gone through all the other celebrities that were there as well. And I don't think his wife Jada, I don't think her dress would have managed to get a quick exit out of there. There was loads of it, wasn't there? Loads of dress. So you know, it wasn't. It was like he was captive. He was sat there. What does he do? Defend his wife, and I think it just came out like that, and it all went wrong. All went totally wrong.
I'm on the fence. I'm not at all condoning his violence. Violence should never happen. But think about it. So you there's a part of you that wants to protect the person that you dearly love, that's being humiliated live on television by somebody else. But there's, to me, can he have done right or can he have done wrong? Because if he had just sat there and said nothing and did nothing, it would have been all over press the next day. Will Smith let his wife be humiliated on stage and he did nothing. He didn't say anything. He didn't do anything. But it's really difficult, isn't it? Because if you think about it, put yourself in that situation. So someone you really care about, you really love. So there's that and I'm not saying I would go over to somebody and punch somebody if somebody was hurting somebody that I love. But there's actor Will Smith as well. There's also that actor Will Smith that people look up to. Will Smith, he's a big person in the celebrity world. But I just think I don't know how I would have dealt with that situation, because if he had said nothing and done nothing, press would have been all over that the next day. How can he just sit there and say nothing and do nothing while his wife gets humiliated?
But like in a lot of situations that we've said before, I don't think nobody would know what they would do unless they was in that situation. Do you know what I mean? Like I've said many a time with my son, you don't know how you would react. Yes, they're talking about someone close to you, personal to you, but you know, he could have turned away from Chris. He could have looked into his wife's eyes and hold her hand and just sort of, you know, said, "Oh, what a knob," you know, or something like that. But you know, it must have, like you're saying, with all what's going on in his life, he's probably never looked at his wife, and he's just, you know, it's just churning for him to just total crack, to get up to do that when he knows there's going to be severe consequences, is like, oh my gosh, you know. And yeah, he's going to regret it, but in that space of time, that's what he thought was, if it was right or wrong, he needed to do something. And like you say, his actions, no matter what way he turned, he was going to be in the press, wasn't he, the next day, because they would have slated him if he didn't stick up for his wife. And we've
all been in those situations as well, where if you think about just an everyday relationship, if somebody starts on your partner or your husband or your wife or your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, and that partner does nothing apart from sit there and watch, I know I would be like, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you intervene? Why didn't you talk?
But
So
again, there's Will Smith, the actor, as well.
Yeah.
Know what I mean? So
it's hard, isn't it? Because how can
on,
we judge that then? How can we?
You don't know what's going on in his head. Do you know what I mean? Like what Mike said, you just really don't know. He's a lost soul, and that's how he played out that scenario. You know, everybody would have a view on what they would have done, but who knows unless they was in that situation and was going through what him and his wife are going through.
Yeah, I follow you, Claire, on that, because I know what you're saying, Nick, and about, you know, but we have to this comes back to your first question about difference between wealth. It's the same thing with fame. You know, you can't compare your average Joe Bloggs in a pub to Will Smith at one of the biggest ceremonies in the world. And actually, you know, we say they couldn't have got up and walked out, but how much more dignified would it have been for him to stand, take his wife's hand and walk out and use that difficulty, use that awkwardness, because you're absolutely right, Rachel, to walk from the front of that place and openly sort of highlight things such as I don't agree with this or just dismiss, but hold his wife's hand and walk out. That is much more powerful, isn't it? And use his fame, use his influence, use his gift to discuss why he made that decision making. Instead, he looked like a broken man that got up and slapped him round the face and then stood and screamed and shouted at him, get your life, get my wife's name out your effing mouth. It's just
away, Chris Rock would have gone like that.
Oh God, could you imagine him literally standing at the front, taking his wife's hand, just dismissing and walking away? Now, I'm not saying it's easy, because none of us, you know, I went there, you're right, and I think you've just said it, Claire. How would we react in that moment? We don't know. But the bottom line is, Nick, in terms of how can we judge, the world judges everything we do. We judge. Human nature is built up of judgment. So, you know, unfortunately, we live in a world where that's kind of like a question that's never going to be answered, isn't it? Because we all will make a judgment, whether it's something as simple as making a judgment on the way someone makes a cup of tea, right the way through to the judgment of Will Smith. Do you see what I'm trying to say? It's a continuum.
And when I think about, because I completely agree, you could see in his eyes.
It was heartbreaking.
It was. You could see he was really struggling with something. And actually, I know personally, I'm quite okay at saying this now. I wouldn't have been able to say it a couple of years ago. But when you're struggling, and I'm not saying I don't know Will Smith. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what's going through his head right now. I don't know if he's poorly. I don't know if stuff is going on. But in my mind, when stuff happened to me, I wanted the world to know I was okay. I wanted to put that persona on the world that I was fine and everything was fine and dandy. And if we just think how small our world is compared to somebody like Will Smith that has a camera in his face nearly every day, photographers taking pictures, all of that jazz, it's almost like putting on the front. And I think it's harder in the celebrity world for people to go, actually, I'm struggling. Do you agree with that? Do you think that's that? I wouldn't like to be in that position. I was not in a good way a couple of years ago, and that would have broke me. So I really look up to people that are in the celebrity world, like Harry come out about his mum and depression before now, and seeing different celebrities now are talking about it. But do you think there's a higher pressure when you're on television, Claire?
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's like I say, he's trying to cope with it. He knows, like you say, right from the young days when he started out, he's always had the camera there. So, you know, for him to do what he did, it must have just been like that, you know, and he's just in his mind going, you know, no, don't say that about my wife. Do you know what I mean? And you don't know what's going through his mind to do something like that, which he then knows is going to affect him for the rest of his life. But did he need help? Do you know what I mean? Like you're saying, is he really struggling? Can he openly talk to say, you know, I need help? I don't know, because like you say, we don't know what really is going on. We surmise all the time, and that. But on that situation, he did seem like a man who was struggling, and that's how he coped with it, being right or being wrong.
Well, he broke down on telly, didn't he? He did break down eventually.
But again, he's an actor, so I'm not saying.
Yeah, I get that. But Mike, do you think they've done the right thing though by banning him for 10 years? Do you think actually their hands were tied and actually that's the consequence to his actions?
I don't think they could have done anything differently, could they? And they're not. You know, it's not an organisation that would look at the reasons why. It's going to follow a code of conduct. He's acted inappropriately and he's harmed somebody. I mean, he could have been charged with assault. So yeah, I think the outcome is as it is. I think, you know, in terms of understanding the time scale behind that, I think it's two different things, because I think for me, you know, I very much feel that there's something else driving his behaviour at the moment. Doesn't make excuses for him. The consequences as it is in terms of what that's going to mean for his career, and obviously him being banned from the awards would be absolutely huge, because he won an award that night as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Which is really contradictory, really. But, you know, I just think it's about anybody in the craft. If you're going to work to that level, you have to take with it the responsibility and sometimes the challenge that you get. But the bottom line is we're all human. We'll all break, won't we, eventually?
It's hard, and it's a difficult one. Rachel, let's come to you. Let's go off the subject of Will Smith a little bit. So when we think about children these days, a pure example, I'm now an uncle, and I think about my nephew quite a lot. Do you believe that it's healthy for children to see their parents fall out and not agree and argue, but in the same respect see that forgiveness and that understanding at the end of it? Do you think it's really healthy for children to see that at a very young age?
I think it's healthy if you have a disagreement, not obviously not a violent relationship with with parents. Obviously that's not healthy to see. But I think if you can't go through life agreeing with everything somebody says, and my mum and dad, they often disagreed, but they were, it was a loving family unit, and my husband and myself, we'd never argue verbally and loud in front of the children. And
why is that though? Would you stop it?
Them.
Would you stop it? So say like it was turning into something that was quite loud and quite, would you be a parent that would be like, we can't do this now because the children are here?
No, but we had a sense of we were quite good parents, I suppose. We wouldn't do it. We were always aware of our environment and who was around. It's like when people argue in the street, or some people don't care. They just argue and they're verbal and they shout loudly. And I would never do that either. You know, I'd keep it to myself.
But I don't know if that's healthy, because, you know, like we talk about snowflakes. No, not in the streets, but when we now talk about, we've got a generation of snowflakes. Actually, does that start from home? Does the hardness of life, and actually it's not always a bed of roses, and actually love is a bumpy road, and actually sometimes there are severe arguments that happen between people, and that's healthy.
Oh, Nikki, you're really pushing, aren't you, tonight? I feel sorry for you, Rachel. Go back at him, love. He's borderline a mini Putin, isn't he, tonight? This guy, he's tough as old boots.
You know, is treading a fine line here. And the thing is when you've got children, well, in my opinion anyway, when you've got children, you have to you teach them even how to argue. You teach them how to debate. You teach them how to put the point across, and reasoning. And it's all to do with reasoning. When you're bringing up a child, it's reasoning with them, so they know right from wrong. They know respect. They know how to, I suppose, compromise as well. And everyone is an individual. Your children are individuals, even though they're from you. They're all individual. They have to have the spirit. They don't have the spirit knocked out of them. They have to grow as they should grow, but within the family unit, because they are part of you. And you don't learn the morals and respect for others by arguing in front of them and expecting them to listen to all your adult views. Everything has got it has to be language appropriate as well, and you can't be talking adult arguments in front of a child. So you can't, I don't believe that at all. So no, you can't argue like that. You can do it carefully as a parent.
Do you agree, Claire?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I say, especially with the children situation, you know, I never argued in front of my ex with the children around, and of course he still comes round now. But we don't bring an argument in. I'll walk off, you know.
But why are we protecting them from that? Because actually, that's everyday life. That is normal. That is. And then, but the growing, if it doesn't happen as a child and they don't see it, it's alien to them when they become an adult. And
there's a place,
you know
I think.
What I'm saying?
Yeah. But for me, I think there's a time and a place. And I'm not saying that, you know, we never argued, but, you know, there's a time and a place. So, and again, it's got to be age appropriate. So, you know, when they're toddlers, it's no good you spouting off because they pick things up as they do throughout as they're growing up. But as again, it's age appropriate, because then they do understand that, yes, grown-ups do argue, but there's a reasoning on why you argue, and sometimes you're not right. So, you know, sometimes you need an argument to find out you're wrong.
See, I've said that to Rachel many times, and she's always told me she's always right. Go on, Rachel, what was you going to say?
I've forgotten now. You can't include your children in your argument, and you arguing in front of them so they can witness it. You're including them in it, and as they grow older, they'll think they'll have an opinion, and I would hate any of my children to. Well, they're 30 and 33 now, but I know I don't look old enough.
No, you don't.
But the thing is, if they have an opinion, then they'll have a side if you split or anything like that. And I would hate my children to want me more than my husband, or my husband more than me, and side with them. You can't, you know, they have their own relationship with both of us, and a different relationship with both of us. And so I'd hate to have an argument that bad that it would make them think I was wrong or he was wrong, and it just splits them totally. Because although my husband and I recently were not together, we still talk very amicably, and the children, they love us both, and so I think that's that works for us anyway.
There's a fine line in there. But tell me what you guys think. Do you think Will Smith has been given his consequence, fine and good, and actually 10 years is appropriate for his actions? Also, do you believe it's healthy to fight in front of your children, or do you think it should be kept behind closed doors when they're not about? Have your say, make sure you have your say as well as ours. We go on to our final subject. I'm kind of scared to ask the first question, and I might have to put my head down, but volunteers at Grimsby and Director Ranch of Cat Protection has been left scratching their heads as they weigh why 5 adorable felines in their care are still waiting for someone to notice them. Brother Carl and Nigel are much more than kittens and have already had a difficult start to life, coming from a multi-cat household where their welfare needs to be met. Mike
The word is
Curtis.
moggy. The word is moggy, Nick.
Okay, right. Okay, Mike Curtis. Are you a fan of the pussy or are you an animal person?
Oh, for God's sake, why am I on this show sometimes? Well, Nicholas, I'm going to respond with dignity. I'm not going to come across the screen and slap you for that really poor, uncouth undercurrent. And actually, I am not particularly a big cat fan. I am not. But I would never harm a cat. So, I think what you're asking me is the welfare of animals is this subtext. And what I'm saying to you is I do believe this should be treated kindly, of course.
I'm sorry, Mike. I've been so excited to ask you that question all the way through the show.
I know, it's so incredible. Can I just say, viewers, so incredibly uncouth. It's a good job that he brings somebody of my standard on here to keep lifting standards. And at any point, Claire and Rachel, I'm quite happy to take over as chair and we'll go to a three-way conversation. But I will pass back to Nick as our panel lead.
Claire, are you an animal person?
I must admit, I do love animals, but I do think that they need protecting. As in, I love them, but I haven't got any, and that's because I don't have the time myself. I have the guinea pigs from school. I have my friends' dogs at weekends because that fits in with my life. But for me to actually have a dog, it's not fair for the dog because I can't take it.
Claire, can I just say I've had many dogs in my life, but they don't have four legs.
Well, yeah, I think I agree.
They don't have 4 legs.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't have 4 legs at all. Rachel,
Yeah.
do you believe that there should be a stricter way in getting an animal in the first place to try and prevent animal cruelty?
Yeah, I do. I think animal cruelty that has actually been the people have been prosecuted for. I think they should have a stricter penalty, imprisonment, quite honestly, because some of these things are horrific. You see on Facebook now and again, you're scrolling through and then you see something. No, I don't want to see it. I do not want to see it because these images are. If they're put on there, it's fuel for the people that are actually putting them on there. It's not helping animal cruelty and actually somebody knowing about it, somebody actually seeing it and witnessing it, because it just makes me sick. I'm a real animal lover, and the whole family is. Even to the point where I'll swat a fly. That's probably all, but I don't like. I've got a spider at the moment, one of those long-legged things, real long-legged things. I've got one.
Why are you doing the sign, Rach? Why are you doing?
Well, his legs are like this. It's suspended in my toothbrush cup. It went there overnight. I do clean my teeth very often, twice a day, and it's in my toothbrush cup. And I lift it up, and they're fast. They are. So I thought if I moved it, and it's on the landing at the moment, I'm hoping the dog will eat it. But I'd throw it out the window, or I'd never kill a spider.
Can I just remind you of the hymn, Rachel? All things bright and beautiful. Oh, it's graceful.
I know it. I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't hurt it. I'd get rid of. And my brother get bees in the summer. These bored bees that are sitting on the ground, floundering because I haven't had a flower to eat. My brother gets a little saucer of sugar and puts these bees on this little saucer of sugar. And one day, he was mortified that it drowned in the sugar. It was there, right up his legs up. But I try to save every animal, every creature.
I watched a show last night. I don't know it. I think it was on Channel 5 a couple of weeks ago, and it's a reporter from the UK, and he's going around looking at all these sort of weird and quirky places. And he goes out to Greece. I don't know if anybody saw it, and it's on Facebook. It's the Andros Animal Centre. And it's about a lady. The focus was around the fact that she'd got mental health and she decided to take herself out in the 70s. I don't know if I can't remember his name, but he's a really famous reporter. And she went out in the 70s anyway, and she opens up an animal centre. And people go and visit her, and basically her entire home is dedicated to all animals. So there's cats, dogs. And you know what? Last night, probably for the first time, and it's really coincidental, obviously, with today's topic, and she saves dogs. Obviously, in Greece, they don't particularly have the legislation that we have with the RSPCA and things like that. But she saved this dog from dying, and I have never seen a dog so. I don't know if it was just the angle the camera got, but the absolute distress that was in this animal's eyes, and his paws were bleeding, all his nose was literally cracked open, there was no fur because he'd got a flesh-eating disease, and his owners had left him in this incredibly neglectful, like a stone cage basically. So look at the heat. I don't know if you can imagine the heat on that, his paws burning every day. And I just think there are some really cruel people in the world. I think actually it's quite a serious topic, animal cruelty, because, you know, what does that reflect on today's society? And what does that reflect on people that think that that's completely appropriate to do that to such an innocent creature?
That's why it should be a bigger prosecution, shouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we wonder why animals strike out and bite and things like that. Well, actually, you know, what we know about animals and therapeutic care is they're one of the greatest creatures that create healing, because they're unconditional, aren't they? And they don't answer you back. And I just think it's absolutely disgusting. There's no need to treat any animal with any level of cruelty, really. And I understand that there are people out there that do that, and not everybody particularly has a choice, and that's a different topic. But, you know, it's just not acceptable. And actually, you know, it's a humorous topic, but actually it's quite serious at the same time. Or humorous in the sense of we can giggle about all creatures great and small, but I don't think we should blur the lines between that and outright animal cruelty. I'll get off my soapbox again.
Ladies and gents, that brings us to the end of the show. Doesn't that hour go fast every single time? Can you thank my panel for this evening? It's been incredible. His bark is worse than his bite. That's Mike Curtis. Make sure you don't get too near her because she might swat you. That's Rachel Penny. And the lady that always fits the glitz and glamour with a little bit of raw is Claire Brownie May. Make sure you join us next week for a whole new panel, whole new debate. Thank you for letting us keep your Tuesday night entertained. And let's hope this airs, because we have got Mike Curtis on the show. But we'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.